Hi, welcome to FraeLea Conversations. I'm FraeLea, and this is Frank. Well, it's been a while since you've heard from us, and at this time we're going to offer a little explanation. Frank, our last FraeLea Conversation was 3 months ago. Can you explain a little bit about where we've been in those last few months?
Sure. It's a little bit of a difficult topic in a way because I think it's, as a writer, as any creator, as any creative, you're kind of creating in a semi-public atmosphere, and it's kind of challenging when you drop the ball because everybody sees you dropping it. So we're plugging along. It's April. Yeah. We're writing Ascending Mage 3 Buried Truth, and some of the chapters were flowing really well and other ones were a little bit challenging, and our alpha team was giving us very positive feedback, so we were generally on the right course.
And Ember was talking to you.
And Ember was talking to me, which that'll be an episode later that we're going to be showing you. So it's a little foreshadowing there for you. So we had gotten to chapter 8 and I knew that it wasn't very good, and I had rewritten it and it still wasn't very good. And as part of our collaborative process, it kind of gets filtered through you before we pass it on to our alpha team, where they then give their input. And I had passed it on to you, and I think your words were something along the extent of where you're like, Frank, this is just not up to your usual standards. And I knew that, but hearing you articulate it was a little bit of a gut punch, but
well, it was painful to say too.
It was true though, and you know, that's the thing, is it wasn't, you know, you weren't saying it to hurt my feelings. It was true. And I always tell you too that I would rather we discover the flaws in the story now versus when it's out in the wild, out in the public, which is why we have this process that we go through multiple stages of rewrites and so on. But that was in April, and this last winter was a particularly long and brutal winter in North Dakota. I think it lasted 6 months.
Yes,
and it wasn't ending. It was the winter that never ends. So it was, I think there was a little bit of, I don't know, seasonal affective disorder or whatever. I'm self-diagnosing myself a little bit there. But, you know, it was a little bit like, all right, we're sick of this being cooped up in the house because it's cold outside. So when it did start getting nice out, and that combined with the fact that I was a little discouraged, it was really easy to latch on to the distraction of the nice weather, to get outside. We did a ton of camping. We're spending a bunch of time outdoors, and I think we're physically healthier for it, and we're a little bit tanned too.
Yeah.
It might be hard to tell, but we're normally much more pale. if it's, you know, hard to believe that we're more pale than we are now. But I think all of those things kind of had a cumulative effect. And I hate to use the word depression because I've experienced depression, or at least mild depression, years and years ago, decade ago. And we know people that have been depressed or are depressed. So I don't like to use that term depression very casually, but I would say it was kind of close to that spectrum where I was just so discouraged that like imposter syndrome, I guess, is another way of calling it, where you feel like you're just not like deserving of it or capable of it. So that's kind of where I was at, and so it's kind of like a multi-month break, which is really unfortunate because this is our fourth novel, and we're waiting to release Ascending Mages 1 and 2 and 3 to release them all in quick succession, rapid release. And so this has been kind of delaying that considerably.
Well, I think that one of the best things, though, is that we persist. And you have to persist in your passion, and you are passionate about writing. Well,
definitely, you're right, and the stories are in there, and most of them are pretty good stories, I think.
Yeah.
And it's kind of recognizing that it's okay to stumble, and you pick yourself back up, and you get back in the fight. It's like a gladiator in everyone's watching, and there's a lot of pressure, but it's also so damn rewarding. And when you do, and I'm speaking in third person, but really when I, see something that you and I wrote and people actually like it, there's nothing more satisfying than that. So
it's quite a thrill.
That's a big thing. So I really got to thank you, the readers. You've been encouraging. You've been kind of like cracking the whip and saying, all right, when's the next book coming out? We've had a lot of people say that. And that's really inspiring to us. It lets us know you actually want to read it, so that makes us actually want to write it.
Right.
And I really want to thank you and in this public setting here for being so supportive, because it would be easy to get discouraged and say, all right, you don't want this badly enough. But I think you live with me, you see what I go through, and you realize that the struggle is real, but the desire is real too.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. And thank you for watching. You can find us on frhurt.com, and you'll find our updates there.
So thanks again.
Thank you.